Today's story is remarkable. Could you imagine being married 3 times, divorced once, widowed twice? Well, in today's story, we're going to hear how God moved in the life of Gayle Davis. Hey, Gayle, thank you for joining us today. I am so excited you're here to share your story. And like we said, you've been at Bannockburn for a very long time. And God has done a lot in your life over the last many years.
Many years.
We'll just keep it at that.
Let's say many seasons and leave it at that.
Seasons.
Yes,
Yeah,
that sounds
very
better.
Good.
Yes.
Well, Gayle, tell me a little bit about your life, and we'll kind of walk through it here. But you were married at 18. 18 years old.
Young.
Very young.
Very
Today's
young.
standards?
Today's standards, very young.
Very young. But you're married to a man named Jerry.
Correct.
And where did you meet Jerry?
I met Jerry at a dude ranch in Bandera. The summer after I graduated from high school, I decided I was going to do something before I went to college. And so I went to work at Lost Valley Dude Ranch in Bandera, Texas. And he was there as a wrangler working there because his friend's dad owned the Dude Ranch. So that's where we met.
That is awesome. And there's so much to unpack there. But,
I know. But anyway, we'll keep going.
Dude Ranch.
A dude
you and I are
ranch.
going to talk later about that. That is amazing.
Yes.
So you meet Jerry, you fall in love, and before you know it, you guys are married.
Yes.
You're married. You're having kids.
Yes.
And tell me a little bit about what led up to to the 10-year mark.
Okay, we were married for 10 years. And like you said, we had children. We had 2 girls during that particular time. And like any marriage, it wasn't great, but I thought it was pretty good. But you know what, Casey? One night he came home and literally, to me, out of the blue, said, I want a divorce. You hear about women saying that happening, but it really does. So I tried to talk to him about counseling and, trying to make it better, and there was no doing it. He was determined that we were going to be divorced. So after 10 years of marriage and 2 children, I then became what's now known as a single mom.
Okay, single mom.
Single mom.
Raising 2 kids.
Raising 2 kids, yes.
And just to kind of clarify some things, you didn't know the Lord at that time.
I did not know the Lord at that time.
So you now have this,
no,
I would say a tragedy of husband walking in saying, I'm done, and I'm out, and left you with 2 kids, single mom, no God.
No God.
And did that put you... Well, you start on a quest, I guess, maybe a little bit, or just like, where's life going? Did you start asking questions like what's happening?
Sure, I did.
Yeah.
Like you said, I was not a believer at that time, but even so, I had questions, and there were struggles related to that. But I want to tell you one thing that was kind of interesting. Even though Jerry and I had divorced, I remained good friends with his sister, which is now my former sister-in-law. And she introduced me to someone by the name of Ray Foster, who happened to be doing security work out there for them. And so I met Ray Foster. So enter someone new in my life at that time.
Tell me a little bit about Ray.
Let me tell you a little bit about Ray. Ray was from the Cayman Islands. He had come to the United States several years ago, and he was a believer. Oh. He was a born-again believer. Now remember, I'm still not a believer at this time, but we started dating. I started going to church with him, started going to functions with his Christian friends, and I just thought, well, there might be something to this after all. There might be something to this after all.
Did y'all get married right away, or
no,
you dated
not
for a
right.
while?
We dated for a while,
Okay.
Not very long, but we dated.
Then you're married.
But we dated for a while. But before we got married, I need to tell you what happened one Sunday morning. I usually went to church with him, but for some reason I wasn't, and I was at home in front of my TV watching a TV evangelist. Don't remember who it was, but he gave the plan of salvation, and at the end, like they do, he said, if you want to accept Christ, then you just pray this prayer right after me. And there, in front of my TV on that Sunday, I prayed the prayer. And at that point, I became a born-again believer.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so you give your life to the Lord.
I
just
give
wanna
my life
unpack
to
this
the
for
Lord.
a minute, because I think that's really neat that, I mean, you're watching and you're by yourself.
And I'm by myself.
Watching a
Watching
TV
a TV
evangelist,
evangelist.
okay, which is dear to my heart, but
I know
yeah,
that. We talked about that.
very cool. But I mean, God used that TV evangelist,
Yes.
to speak to you that morning. When you normally go to church and probably hear another message, and maybe who knows, but that morning you gave your life to the Lord. And now, did you tell Ray,
I did.
immediately, or right when he came home, or?
Well, at that point we haven't married yet.
Okay.
So, but the next time I saw him, I just said, well, guess what I did this last Sunday? And I said, I don't feel any different, because sometimes when you accept Christ, there's some sort of feelings that are involved with it, but I didn't feel any different. Well, he was, of course, very excited that I had made that choice to accept the Lord. Yes.
Very cool. So shortly
cool.
after that, you guys are married.
Shortly after that, we're married.
And you're married. Life is great.
Life is
and
good.
Just you're your second marriage. And tell me what happens about 10 years into this marriage.
Well, Ray was going to have just some routine surgery, which required blood work. And in the course of that blood work being run, it was determined that he had leukemia. And I can remember them telling us that, leukemia is not something that can be cured. The best thing that you can hope for is take chemotherapy and that type of stuff to get it into remission. Well, unfortunately, that didn't happen for Ray. So almost exactly 6 weeks after his diagnosis, the Lord took him home. Took him home to the home with the big H in it. Yeah. He died because of the leukemia.
The leukemia.
Yeah.
And so now you're been divorced and now a widow.
Now a widow. That's correct.
But saved.
But saved.
But a completely different story now.
Different story
than
now.
in the first one. You have the Lord. You have people in the community.
Yes. That came around me.
Yes,
you, absolutely.
Walked you through this.
Yes.
And then you said a couple years, of just transitioning. And were you involved in this church at that time?
Yes,
Yeah,
I was.
You come to
I was
Bannockburn,
involved. Yes, I was.
Serving, you have people in this church that
Yes.
are walking with you and helping you.
Yeah.
And then tell me now, this next part of the story that I think is fascinating.
During that time, shortly after that, I reconnected with Jerry.
The first husband.
First husband, Jerry. I reconnected with Jerry. And at that time, then, still, he's not a believer, so I was able then to witness to him about the Lord and how much difference it had made in my life. So Jerry then accepted Christ and was actually baptized right here at Bannockburn by Brother Jim. Yes. All right. So we'll keep continuing with that story. At that time, we're out at Kyle. We moved out to Hayes Hills, and we were out there, worshiping at that particular time. In addition to that, I had decided to retire from the federal government. So I retired after 30 years of working for the federal government, but I wasn't ready to what I call really retire. And I decided to take a job with a private company where I traveled around doing retirement seminars for federal employees. I did it pretty much on a full-time basis. So I was doing a seminar in Oregon at that particular time, got up early the day after I had done the seminar, and I got a phone call from the Department of DPS right here. And I found out that Jerry had been killed in a motorcycle accident the night before. It was, I don't know what to say except that it was just, I couldn't believe it.
It's devastating.
It was devastating. That is the best way to put it. I'm in Oregon, and he's died in a motorcycle accident here in Texas, out close to where we live.
Devastating.
Yes, devastating is what it was.
And what's remarkable and devastating about the story is that you are married to Jerry. This is your second time married to Jerry.
Yes.
But you had already been married to a man who had so much influence in your life that you gave your life to the Lord. And he passed. So now your second husband, which was your
First husband.
First husband, and we're going through all that. But he passes away, and now you're a widow twice.
Mm-hmm. Widowed twice.
Saying, okay, God, what's going on?
What's going on?
What's happening here? You know, and again, I have to go back to this, is that I'm sure you had a community of believers around you at this time.
I did.
From this church, from Hayes Hills, from all the many places you served.
Absolutely. That's important, Casey,
Very important.
to have a church community, to be part of a church community, so when something like this happens, they can wrap their arms around you, because all you can get through is day by day, and you need them to do that. And I've been blessed enough to have that both times.
Because you can't do it alone.
But you can't do it alone.
You can't. You can't go through what you went through alone. One, God, sinner, foremost.
Yes.
But the amount of people who are believers that come around you.
I've heard them call sometimes God with flesh on. Have you ever heard that terminology?
I've heard that before.
I'm sure you probably have. But that was so true in my case, and so important. So important.
What would you say, we'll kind of close this down with this. What would you say to those who are watching right now, who are tuning in, hearing this story, maybe feeling sad, maybe feeling, oh, wow, maybe some going through exactly what you've gone through, maybe they've lost a loved one, or whatever it may be. What would you say to them that are watching this, in this moment, how God has, and the people that God used to walk you through this?
I can make it kind of short and sweet if that's all right, but it's absolutely true. First of all, we'll go through changes in our life. That's what we've talked about, me going through several changes in my life. We all will, and they'll vary. But no matter what, Casey, God will make a way. God will make a way. He will. He will. Through the community, through your continued prayer, He will, no matter what the circumstances are, and no matter how devastating they seem at the time. Have faith. He will make a way. He will make a way. And what we were talking just a minute ago where you said a test becomes a testimony. And absolutely it does. And you said a couple other things. You want to say them again if you don't mind? Please, it's important.
Yeah,
it's
a
very
test becomes
important.
A testimony. A tragedy becomes
a triumph. That's right. That's right.
And a mess can become a message.
Can become a message.
And this is a message. And
it is
thank
a
you for
message.
sharing your story today. Thank you for sitting on the couch and being vulnerable. I mean, it has been, you've gone through some things nobody wants to go through. But you have an incredible joy about you. And every time I've been able to serve with you and do things with you in this church, I'm so thankful you're a part of this church. Because you are a glowing beacon of light, and I say that.
Thank you very much.
And I say that because it's true.
Yeah, I appreciate that, though. I do.
And there's only the testament to that is because God is so real in you, and you've gone through it, you've walked through it, you've felt the pain, all that, but still glowing and knowing that Jesus Christ is Lord of your life.
Amen. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me here today.
Ma'am.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to Bannockburn Stories. We'll see you next time.